They said I was delusional. They said I didn't get how the real world works. They said I should stop dreaming like a child because dreams don't pay bills. And maybe for a moment, I believed them. Because when you're laughed at enough times, mocked behind your back, or talked over in rooms you barely got invited to, you start to shrink. You start to whisper when you used to speak boldly. You start to doubt the fire you were born with. I remember staring at my bedroom ceiling at 3 a.m., asking myself if they were right. If maybe I was asking for too much. If maybe the dream I held wasn't vision, but vanity. They said I gave up. They said I disappeared. They rewrote my story before I even had a chance to live it. But the thing is, I wasn't gone. I was underground. Growing. It wasn't failure. It was something bigger, just not visible yet. You see, some seeds bloom in silence. Some revolutions start with a whisper. And sometimes, the most unbelievable part of your story is the part no one believed in but you. Now, they ask if I'm hiring. Now they tag me in articles. Now they say they always knew I'd make it. But the silence they left me in, it taught me how to roar without raising my voice. My name is Ava Monroe. I'm 29 years old, and I live in Austin, Texas. This isn't a story about revenge. This is a story about remembering who you are when the whole world forgets. Because sometimes, the biggest dreamers aren't trying to be seen. They're just trying to build something worth seeing. I was supposed to be someone predictable. That was the plan. Not mine, exactly, but everyone else's. My parents wanted me to play it safe. My teachers wanted me to follow the rules. My friends wanted me to be just like them. Stable. Practical. Reasonable. The dream they had for me came with a job title. Marketing executive. A fancy one-bedroom apartment. A predictable 9 to 5. Weekends with wine. Vacations with coworkers. A safe, polished version of adulthood. And for a while, I tried. I smiled through internships I hated. I networked at events that drained me. I collected business cards like they were magic keys, waiting for one to open the right door. But I had this itch, this fire, a vision that kept tugging at me from the corner of my mind. I wanted to build something of my own, something creative, something mine. I didn't know exactly what it was yet, but I could feel it growing inside me like roots in the dark. I remember mentioning it once at Thanksgiving. Just once. Something like, I'm thinking of starting a design studio, maybe a digital brand. Something small, but real. The silence was deafening. Then came the fork clinks, the cleared throats, and finally my uncle's voice. So, you're giving up your degree for Canva? A laugh followed. Not loud, but sharp. After that, people started talking about me in the past tense. She's just figuring things out. She needed a break. We don't talk about that anymore. And maybe they were right to be worried. Because when I finally quit my agency job, I didn't have a plan. I had $312 in my account, and a Google Doc titled, Big Dream, Bigger Risk. My parents didn't yell. They didn't beg me to stay. They just went quiet. It's strange how silence can be louder than anger. How disappointment doesn't always need words. There were days I didn't eat 3 full meals. Nights I cried into my pillow so no one would hear. I kept telling myself I was building something, but all I saw were half-finished websites, empty inboxes, and a list of failed client calls. And yet, even in that storm of uncertainty, I didn't want to go back. Not to the cubicle. Not to the lifeless meetings. Not to being someone else's idea of successful. I just kept telling myself, start small. Stay real. Don't disappear. So I did. I started over. Quietly. Deliberately. While no one was watching. At first, it looked like nothing. Just a desk by the window in my tiny apartment. A second-hand laptop. A notepad filled with scribbles that only made sense to me. I called it my hope corner. Every morning, I showed up to it like it was a real office. No one was watching. No paycheck was coming. But something about it made me feel alive. I began offering small design services. Logo tweaks. Instagram templates. One-page website designs for local side hustlers and hobbyists. The jobs were tiny. But the joy was huge. I wasn't making much, barely $40 a gig. But I was creating something from scratch, and slowly, quietly, people started coming back. They told their friends. Their friends told their cousins. And without me even noticing, a little thread had started to weave itself into something that looked like momentum. I still remember my very first client who made me cry, in the best way. Her name was Lydia, a 63-year-old grandmother who wanted to start a handmade candle shop on Etsy. She said, "I know I'm old, but I want to leave something behind that smells like me." Her email was full of typos and uncertainty. Her vision? Blurry at best. But her heart? It was golden. I designed a brand kit for her. Soft blush tones. Script typography. We called it Lydia's Light. When I sent it over, I expected nothing more than a thank you. Instead, I got a voicemail.
Shaky.
Emotional. She said, "Ava, you brought my baby into the world. My husband cried when he saw it. You made me feel possible again." That moment changed me. It reminded me that this wasn't about logos. It wasn't about fonts or colors or clean layouts. It was about giving people permission to start. Every person I worked with became a mirror, reflecting a piece of me I'd forgotten. The girl who believed in big ideas. The woman who found magic in making. The soul that knew you didn't need millions to matter. You just needed to move someone deeply. I wasn't on a magazine cover. I wasn't giving TED Talks. I wasn't going viral. But I was waking up excited. And for the first time in years, I liked the person I was becoming. It didn't make headlines. But it mattered. The tiny jobs turned into real clients. The Etsy shops became e-commerce brands. Side hustlers turned into business owners. And my inbox? It started to fill, not just with requests, but with stories. People writing to me about their hopes, their fears, their ideas. They didn't want just designs. They wanted to be seen. So I built a studio. Nothing fancy, just me, a freelance copywriter in Seattle, and a part-time VA from Miami. But we were consistent.
Kind.
Clear about our mission. We focused on helping underestimated people bring their stories to life online. Moms returning to work. Young founders with zero funding. Immigrants launching their first digital business. We weren't flashy, but we were growing.
Fast.
By year 2, we had served over 800 small brands, launched 140 websites, created visual identities for real people with unreal dreams. We were onboarding over 90 clients per month. Our average turnaround time? 72 hours. Our return rate? 68%. Our newsletter had a 78% open rate, higher than most Fortune 500s. I even got a feature in a niche creative magazine. The headline read, "The Quiet Design Studio Making Loud Moves in Small Places." I framed it, but I didn't hang it. Not because I wasn't proud, but because no one in my family ever asked to see it. To them, I was still the one who could have done more, who walked away from a real career. At Christmas, my cousin announced she'd gotten a job at a tech firm. The room erupted in applause. Champagne. Group selfies.
Toasts.
When they asked what I was doing, my mom said, "She's helping people with their online pages or something." And my aunt added, "She's always been the free spirit." That's what they called it. Free spirit. A polite way of saying, not quite serious. I didn't argue. I didn't correct them. Because part of growing is realizing that the people closest to you aren't always the ones who see you clearly. They still saw the version of me who struggled. The version who failed loudly. Not the one who rebuilt quietly. But I kept building anyway. Because the impact was real. And because I no longer needed validation to do what I was born to do. It happened at a wedding. I wasn't even supposed to be there. A last-minute +1 for my friend Mia, whose date had canceled. I almost said no. I had deadlines. Clients. Things to do. But something said, go. The venue was gorgeous. Sunset over a vineyard, twinkle lights, laughter, soft jazz echoing off stone walls. I stood near the bar, sipping ginger ale, quietly watching the room move. And then I heard it. A voice, clear, sincere, trembling slightly. She changed everything for my brother. I turned. A woman in a pale blue dress stood across from me, deep in conversation with a small group. She looked young,
Warm.
grateful, and something in my chest tugged. She continued. He was struggling. He'd been laid off, was depressed, didn't believe in himself anymore. But she helped him build his own business. A real one. From the ground up. One of the men asked, "What was her name again?" The woman smiled. "She runs a design studio. Ava Monroe. My brother calls her his angel." My stomach dropped. I blinked, unsure if I'd heard it right. But then she added, "She runs a brand called Threadline. Ever heard of it?" Threadline. My studio. My name. I hadn't even known her brother's project had gone that far. He was just client number 229 in my old spreadsheet. A quiet guy who needed branding for a virtual tutoring service. He paid the invoice. I delivered. I moved on. But clearly he hadn't. I stepped forward, slow, still unsure if I should interrupt. The group was still talking, smiling now. The woman said, "I wish I could thank her in person. I don't even think she knows how much she changed his life." I cleared my throat. They turned. "I'm Ava." I said it softly, but it landed like thunder. Time slowed. She blinked, then gasped. "Wait, you're Ava Monroe?" I nodded. Her eyes welled up. She put her hand over her mouth. "You have no idea what you did for our family." We hugged. Right there. Two strangers connected by a ripple neither of us saw coming. She whispered in my ear, "He's thriving. He's himself again. You gave us back our brother." And in that moment, the years of invisibility, the silence at family dinners, the laughter behind my back, the ignored achievements, none of it mattered, because someone with no obligation to flatter or pretend,
Saw me.
and more than that, she felt me, not because I demanded attention, but because the truth walked in by itself and refused to stay quiet. Things didn't change overnight, but they changed. A few weeks after the wedding, I got a message from my brother. No emojis, no small talk, just, "Saw your interview. Didn't know you were doing all that. Proud of you." A few days later, my mom called.
She didn't say sorry. She didn't have to.
But at the end of the call, just before hanging up, she said, "Your dad showed the neighbors your website. He thinks it's elegant." It made me laugh, not because it was funny, but because I knew how hard that sentence was for him. And still, he said it. Then one day, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Just my name, in my mother's handwriting. Inside, folded gently between tissue paper, was a copy of the magazine article. The one I had never hung. This copy was framed. Underlined in red ink were the words, "She built something that made others feel possible again." And taped to the back was a note. 5 words. It wasn't pride. It was peace. I sat on the floor and cried. Not because I needed her approval to succeed, but because it felt like I had come full circle. I had left to find myself. And I did. But in doing so, I gave my family a chance to rediscover me, too. They didn't have to throw me a party, or post me on Facebook, or finally understand every corner of my heart. All I wanted was a little room to be who I was always meant to be. And now I had it. I still kept that first notebook. The one titled Big Dream. Bigger Risk. The corners are torn. The ink's faded. But every time I hold it, I remember. I didn't build a company to prove anyone wrong. I built it to prove myself right. And that made all the difference. If you've ever been told your dreams were too much, or that your timing was off, or that your path didn't look like everyone else's, this story was for you. Because I know what it feels like to want something more, while being surrounded by people who only see what's missing. I know how quiet the road gets. When no one claps for your first small win, when your inbox is full but your dinner table is silent. But I also know this. Real growth is often invisible. And the most powerful dreams? They don't scream. They whisper. So, if you're in that season right now, of building in silence, of hoping without applause, of being the free spirit in the room full of boxes. I see you. And someday so will everyone else. Not because you shouted, but because your work spoke louder than anything they could ignore. Because the truth always finds a way to be heard, even when you don't ask for it. Where are you watching from? Tell me your story. Drop it in the comments. Someone out there might be waiting for your quiet victory to give them permission to start theirs. And if you've made it this far,
Thank you.
thank you for showing up for stories like this. For believing that second chances matter. That soft voices are still strong. That not every hero wears a cape. Some wear burnout. Some wear doubt. Some wear old notebooks and overgrown dreams. But all of them, every single one, deserves to be seen. So until next time,
Keep going. Keep dreaming.
and remember, the ones who once doubted you might one day ask if you're hiring.